September 10th, 1961. Just 2 laps into the Italian Grand Prix, tragedy exploded at Monza. Ferrari's Wolfgang von Trips tangled wheels with Jim Clark's Lotus. In a split second, von Trips' car launched into the crowd. He was killed on impact, so were 15 spectators. Bodies were left in the stands, debris scattered across the grass. And somehow, the race kept going. Officials never stopped it. Teammate Phil Hill crossed the line in first winning the title, while just meters away, medics covered corpses. It was one of the darkest days in Formula One history. The high-speed track, with its sweeping corners and steep banking, came under immediate fire. Safety barriers were almost non-existent. Fans were exposed. The sport had seen death before, but never like this. 16 lives gone in a single incident. F1 faced public outrage. Questions poured in: how could a race continue through that kind of carnage? Monza's deadly oval layout was shelved. Safety measures for both fans and drivers were ramped up. The crash didn't just take a champion, it shattered the illusion that speed was thrilling but safe. And F1 would never look at a crowd the same way again. July 29th, 1973. The Dutch Grand Prix. Rookie Roger Williamson suffered a tyre failure at 140 miles per hour. His car flipped, skidded upside down, and erupted into flames. He survived the crash alive, screaming, trapped beneath the wreck. No red flag, no immediate help. Marshals stood frozen. No fireproof suits, no training. But one man didn't. David Purley slammed on the brakes, jumped out of his own car, and ran straight into the fire. Alone, he tried to flip the burning car, then grabbed a tiny extinguisher and attacked the blaze himself. The world watched as Purley fought to save a fellow driver while everyone else stood still. Other racers thought he was the victim. No one realised Williamson was inside, suffocating to death. By the time help came, it was too late. The footage stunned fans and shamed the sport. How could a driver burn alive on track with no help? How could safety be that broken? Williamson's death changed F1. Marshals got real training. Fireproof suits became standard. Drivers learned to stop, like Purley did. But the trauma never left. One man died. Another became a hero. And Formula One had no excuse left. April 27th, 1975, Barcelona. Montjuic Park was never ready. Drivers protested loose guardrails. Emerson Fittipaldi refused to race. Mechanics tightened bolts by hand. But the green flag dropped anyway. Then came lap 26. Rolf Stommelen's rear wing snapped at over 150 miles per hour. His car launched over the barriers and into the crowd. In seconds, 5 people were dead, including a marshal and journalists. Stommelen survived, but his legs and ribs were shattered. The chaos was indescribable. The race stopped at lap 29. Only half points were awarded, and F1 was left in shame. The track had been a disaster waiting to happen. Warnings were ignored. Safety was sacrificed for a race. Fans, media, and even officials died because no one listened. Montjuic was dropped from the calendar forever. But the deeper impact was messy. Drivers lost power. Organisers tightened control. The era of boycotts started fading. Still, the crash forced changes. Stronger barriers. Real inspections. A reminder burned into F1's history. Ignore danger, and people die. Montjuic didn't just end in tragedy. It exposed the cracks in Formula One's priorities and the price of pretending everything's fine. March 5th, 1977. South African Grand Prix, Kyalami Circuit. Renzo Zorzi's car catches fire. 2 teenage marshals sprint across the live track with extinguishers. They don't see Tom Price coming. He's flying over a blind rise at nearly 170 miles per hour. He never had a chance. Price slams into 19-year-old Frederick Jansen van Vuren. The marshal is killed instantly. The 40-pound extinguisher he's carrying explodes into Price's helmet, killing him on impact. His car keeps going, Driver slumped until it crashes at the end of the straight. The race, it continues. No red flag, no pause, just confusion and silence. Price was just 27, one of the most promising drivers in F1, gone in a flash. The aftermath hit hard. Niki Lauda won the race, but later said he felt nothing on the podium. The entire paddock was shaken. This wasn't just a tragedy. It was a wake-up call. Martial rules were rewritten. Track crossing without control was banned. The foundation for today's virtual safety car was born. Kyalemi was brutal. 2 men died for one small mistake, and Formula One finally started learning how dangerous the little things could be. May 8, 1982, Belgian Grand Prix qualifying, Zolder circuit. Gilles Villeneuve, Canada's fearless icon, was chasing one final lap. Trying to out-qualify teammate Didier Pironi, he came up fast behind Jochen Mass. In a flash, their wheels touched. Villeneuve's Ferrari was launched into the air, disintegrating mid-flight. He was thrown from the car. His helmet was torn off. His body landed in a catch fence. Hours later, he was gone. He was 32. The Ferrari team withdrew. Zolder fell silent. Across the sport, grief hit hard. Villeneuve wasn't just a fast driver. He was the heart of F1, bold, wild and beloved. His funeral drew thousands. Canada renamed the Montreal circuit in his honour. But the tragedy didn't end there. Just weeks later, Riccardo Paletti was killed in Montreal. Pironi crashed in Germany and never raced again. The 1982 season became a blood-stained reminder of how brutal F1 could be. In response, the FIA fast-tracked safety upgrades, better crash protection, stricter track standards, stronger cockpits. Ground effects were reined in, harness tech advanced. Gilles Villeneuve's death wasn't just a loss. It was a line in the sand the day F1 realised even legends aren't bulletproof. The San Marino Grand Prix in 1994 marked Formula One's darkest hour. Over 3 days, Imola became a nightmare. On Friday, Rubens Barrichello was hospitalised after a brutal crash. On Saturday, rookie Roland Ratzenberger died during qualifying after his front wing failed at high speed. It was the sport's first fatality in 12 years. Then, Sunday, May 1st, Lap 7. Ayrton Senna, a 3-time world champion and Brazil's national hero, crashed at over 300 km/h at Tamburello. His Williams struck a concrete wall. Hours later, he was declared dead. Millions watched it live. As if that wasn't enough, a separate crash at the start injured spectators and a mechanic. F1 had never seen anything like it. The global reaction was immediate. Brazil held a state funeral. Italy launched manslaughter charges. And F1 changed overnight. Chicanes were added. Cockpits were reinforced. Runoff zones expanded. The GPDA reformed. Helmets, seatbelts, crash barriers all redesigned. It was the start of a full-scale safety revolution. Senna and Ratzenberger didn't die in vain. Imola 94 forced F1 to confront its limits. Incredibly, no driver would die in an F1 race again for 20 years. Imola changed everything. On June 19, 2005, Formula One hit rock bottom at the US Grand Prix in Indianapolis. After multiple tyre failures during practice, Michelin warned its teams that their tyres were unsafe for the circuit's high-speed final turn. With no fix allowed, no replacement tyres, no added chicane, their hands were tied. On the formation lap, all 14 Michelin-equipped cars pulled into the pits. Only 6 cars, all on Bridgestone, lined up to race. The crowd of over 100,000 was stunned. They didn't get a Grand Prix. They got a parade. Michael Schumacher won, but it was meaningless. Fans booed, hurled debris, and walked out in disgust. Even the podium ceremony felt hollow. No champagne, no celebration. Michelin later apologised and refunded ticket holders, but the damage was done. The fallout was massive. F1's already fragile relationship with American fans fractured overnight. The sport looked elitist, tone-deaf, and unprepared. Within 2 years, the US Grand Prix vanished from the calendar. Bridgestone became the sole tyre supplier in 2007, ending the tyre war for good. This wasn't a crash or fatality, it was a self-inflicted wound. And it remains one of the most embarrassing moments in F1 history. In 2007, McLaren wasn't just chasing titles, they were reading Ferrari's playbook. A 780-page file, stolen by a rogue Ferrari employee, ended up in McLaren hands. Full designs, strategy notes, technical secrets, everything. The tip-off? A random copy shop employee who saw the pages and called Ferrari. The FIA jumped in. At first, McLaren denied everything. No proof. Case closed. Then came the emails. Drivers, engineers, sharing Ferrari's secrets. The verdict? Guilty. McLaren was fined $100 million, the biggest fine in sports history, and banned from the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari went on to win the title, but no one really celebrated. Spygate wasn't about racing. It was about power, betrayal, and the cost of crossing the line. McLaren's image was shattered. Engineers were banned. Trust between teams? Gone. And fans? They were left wondering how far teams would go to win. This wasn't a crash. It was a data heist. And it's still the most expensive lesson in Formula One history. At the first ever Singapore Grand Prix in 2008, Formula One witnessed a scandal that shook the sport's foundation. Renault driver Nelson Piquet Jr. deliberately crashed his car on lap 14. It wasn't a mistake, it was planned. Renault team bosses Flavio Briatore and Pat Simons had instructed him to crash to bring out a safety car and give teammate Fernando Alonso, who had just pitted, a massive advantage. The plan worked. Alonso went on to win the race. But the truth didn't come out until a year later. After being dropped by Renault, Piquet blew the whistle. A full FIA investigation followed. The fallout was massive. Briatore got a lifetime ban. Simons was suspended for 5 years. Renault received a suspended disqualification, and their main sponsor pulled out in protest. Fans were outraged. The race had been fixed, endangering drivers, marshals, and fans in the process. Crashgate wasn't just cheating. It was a coordinated, dangerous deception that damaged F1's integrity worldwide. In response, the FIA tightened rules around team conduct and offered immunity to whistleblowers. Years later, Crashgate still stands as one of Formula One's darkest chapters, a win-at-all-costs scheme that nearly cost everything. October 5, 2014. The Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka was soaked with rain. Late in the race, Jules Bianchi lost control at the Dunlop curve and slid off track. But instead of hitting a barrier, his car slammed into a recovery crane that was retrieving another crashed car. The impact was brutal. Bianchi suffered severe brain trauma and never regained consciousness. He was just 25. For months, the F1 world hoped. But on July 17, 2015, Bianchi passed away in a French hospital. He was the first F1 driver to die from race injuries since Ayrton Senna in 1994. His death shattered the illusion that F1 had become safe. Drivers and teams were crushed. The FIA retired his number 17, and safety changes followed quickly. The virtual safety car was introduced the next season to slow cars instantly during crashes. Later, the Halo device, a titanium ring above the cockpit, was developed and became mandatory in 2018. It's already saved lives. Bianchi was a rising star, tipped for a Ferrari future. His crash changed the sport forever. F1 didn't just lose a driver that day, it lost a reminder. Safety can improve, but risk never disappears. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, let us know which moment hit you the hardest. And if you want more deep dives like this, don't forget to subscribe.